Hello and welcome to episode 2 of the Short Ginger Show. I am your host, the Short Ginger, and in this week's episode we will be recapping week 1 of the NFL and week 2 of college football, and also looking forward to week 2 of the NFL and week 3 of college football. Now I know this is only my second video, so I want to introduce myself to everyone that may be watching this for the first time. First off, thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. My goal is just to talk about sports more. I have several college degrees that are in forms of media, and I always hoped to cover sports for a living. That has yet to work out, so I thought I'd give this a try. I just want to talk to people about sports because it's what I love. So please like, subscribe, share, comment, leave suggestions, tell me I'm dumb, whatever you want to do. Just talk about sports with me. I think we can have a lot of fun. I do want to list my favorite teams to start, just so people know certain reasons I might be biased. My favorite teams that will pertain to this video are the Buffalo Bills and the Washington State Cougars. So just know I will have some bias, although I try to couch that. I will also have a deeper knowledge of those two teams than I will any other team, which I feel like most people who have favorite teams have that same, I don't want to say problem, but, same knowledge base. Okay, so let's get started with the NFL. I thought some of the games in week 1 were great, while others were terrible. I mean, that Thursday night opening game was just awful. The first game I want to focus on is the Bills-Jets game. The Bills came back in the fourth quarter down 16 in the first half, or in the third quarter, scoring the last 17 points to win by 1. Josh Allen turned the ball over 4 times to start the game in the first half, and honestly, Sam Darnold looked terrible. The Bills' defense carried them to this win. I got some stats here on my paper. Let me pull up. The Bills' defense were 3rd in total yards given up, 1st in yards per play, 7th in rushing yards total, 10th in rushing yards per play, 2nd in total pass yards, 1st in pass yards per play. They also had 4 sacks and technically 1 turnover when the Jets tried the let's lateral the ball every time we touch it on the final play because the Bills fell on it. So, I guess that counts as a turnover. To me, this game was all about the two quarterbacks. Both Sam Darnold and Josh Allen are young and moving into the next phases of their career. To me, Sam just didn't look like he trusted his offensive line, and the Bills just took it to him with 4 sacks and constant pressures. Also, for the Bills, they had a great game plan. They outgained the Jets significantly. In the first half, the turnovers killed them. In the second half, the first time they got the ball, it was inside their own 2, and they ended up getting safety. Other than that, they were able to put it together in the second half and score on 3 of their final 4 drives to get the 17 points to win. Now I want to move to the Jacksonville Jaguars game, specifically Gardner Minshew, who was the Washington State quarterback last year. I think he's going to be a very good player for Jacksonville. I actually think he's going to be the next Dak Prescott. In the fact that he will get the ball back, or not get the ball back, get the starting job due to injury and never give it back. He doesn't have the mobility of Dak or the arm strength, but he manages the offense well and is very accurate. He's mobile enough to pick up some yards on the ground, but more importantly to navigate the pocket. And just from what I've seen from him, he's a guy that people want to play with. His teammates love him. They rally around him, and that's a huge part of being a quarterback. So look for him to have, I think he's not giving that job back to Nick Foles. He went 22 of 25 for 275 yards, a touchdown and interception. Obviously, I don't think he'll keep up an 88% completion percentage, but I will be interested to see what he does. Next, I want to briefly touch on the Ravens and the Dolphins. Man, if Lamar Jackson can throw like that for the rest of the season, the Ravens are going to be hard to stop. And when it comes to the Dolphins, I want to give a shout out to former Bills quarterback Ryan Fitzpatrick, who became the first player to throw 8 touchdowns, or touchdowns for 8 different teams, rather. Although I don't see him being the starter in Miami for too long. I think it's pretty clear. We all know they're tanking. I think what they need to do is have him play between 8 to 10 games, probably lose almost all of them because that roster is terrible, and then turn it over to Josh Rosen so they can figure out what they have there. I like that plan because then you'll still have a high pick. So if you decide Rosen's not who you want, you can draft a quarterback high and not have to give up other assets. If he is who you want, you can trade away that pick for a king's ransom. The next game I want to touch on is the Chargers and the Colts. And there was 2 big takeaways from this game for me. One, for the Chargers, they're going to be fine without Melvin Gordon, and he lost all of his leverage that he had. I mean, Austin Eckler, over 125 total yards and 3 touchdowns. Obviously, you're not going to get that every week, or if you are, that's awesome for them. But, you can get it done with him and by committee. So I think Melvin Gordon returns by week 4. For the Colts, you're going to call me crazy, but I think they're going to win the AFC South. I love Frank Reich as a coach. I think he puts his players in a position to succeed. That roster is very talented. I think they're going to run the ball a lot with Marlon Mack. I think Jacoby Brissett can make enough throws to win. And if you look at that division, I would say Marcus Mariota is a little better than Jacoby Brissett, but I like the Colts roster better than the Titans roster. Then you look at the Jaguars. As much as I like Gardner Minshew, I'm not sure they're going to win the division in year 1 with him. And then you look at Philly. What am I talking about? Who's the 4th team I'm missing? The Jaguars, the Titans. Oh, Houston. Okay, I was going to get to them in my next game. I don't think Deshaun Watson makes it through the season. The offensive line is made of Swiss cheese. I think he's going to get hurt. I think he's in trouble. That's a good segue. We're going to move right to that game. Drew Brees did Drew Brees things at the end, and Will Lutz hit a career-long field goal. That was awesome to see. I don't even know how they got in range, though. That was the bigger thing to me, was what were the Texans thinking? They played so far back, the Saints could just march, no pun intended, march down and get in field goal range, and that's exactly what they did. If I was a Texans fan, I would have lost my mind watching that game. But like I said, I think they have bigger issues because that O-line is not good. And I think in 3 years, Deshaun Watson could pull an Andrew Luck and leave, rightfully so, needing to protect his own health. On the Andrew Luck thing, I think anyone that gives him a hard time for taking care of himself, that's selfish of you, and I am not a fan of bashing players for taking their own personal lives above football. No one loves sports more than I do, but it is just a game. Now I'm going to give you guys a few predictions on week 2. The bet of the week. I like to bet on games, so I'm going to give you guys some tips. The Jaguars +9. I don't think Houston beats them by more than 9 points, so I would take the bet on that. The game of the week I have being the Browns and the Jets. Both teams were teams that people thought could compete for a wild card position this year, and I still think they can. But you never want to fall in an 0-2 hole, so I think that's going to be a very fascinating game on Monday night. I don't want to say a must-win, but close for both those teams. I do think the Browns come out ahead. I'll say 24-21. And my last prediction, I'll give you a fantasy sleeper for this week, and that's Darren Waller, the tight end of the Raiders. I think he could be a lot like Jared Cook was for them last year. I picked him up in my leagues. I think he could be a real success. I liked what I saw from them on Monday. Now let's transition to college football. The game of the week was definitely LSU versus Texas. That game was just fun. Joe Burrow looked phenomenal in that new LSU offense. If that offense keeps looking that good, they could beat Alabama in my mind. I know people probably think I'm crazy, but I think they can. One thing in my previous video, I said I thought Texas was going to make the college football playoff. I did think they were going to lose to LSU. I thought they'd run the table in the Big 12. I no longer think that. Oklahoma just looks unstoppable. Jalen Hurts looks like he's, I don't want to say matured as a passer, but developed as a passer in that system. And I think they're going to beat Texas out for the Big 12 now. Let's move on to two teams that might want to quit playing football. The first being Tennessee. Man, I don't know what they're supposed to do. I don't know where rock bottom is for them, but it's not good. Then we move on to Florida State. Is it possible to fire Willie Taggart after a win? I think that guy is just not a great coach. I don't know where they're heading with him, but it doesn't seem like anywhere good. For both Tennessee and Florida State, I'd give them the same advice, and that would be to offer Urban Meyer as much money as it needs for him to be their coach. I think that is the quickest and best way back to not only being relevant, but national title contenders for both those programs. Now on to Michigan. I just don't see it with them. Harbaugh's a good coach, but it's just not connecting at Michigan. I'm not going to believe they're going to do anything until I actually see them do it. I honestly see them going 8-4 this year. They have a bye week this week after the Army game, which they barely survived, and you can make a strong argument shouldn't have survived. I see them losing to Wisconsin next week. I honestly see them going 8-4 in the regular season, and I think Harbaugh, man, I don't think he gets fired, but I don't see it working there. The quarterbacks never develop like they should. I just don't know, man. Now I just want to touch on Oklahoma again. I got some Jalen Hurts stats, and I was wrong on him. I didn't think he'd ever develop into the passer he's already become in a few weeks in Oklahoma. So far this season, he has 9 total touchdowns. He's completed 83% of his passes and has 800 all-purpose yards. I know it's against Houston and South Dakota, but I didn't think he'd come out the gates this hot. And I think if he can keep playing at a high level, I think they're going to win the Pac-12, win the Big 12 rather easily, and probably make the college football playoff. Now I want to touch on a game I thought was very interesting, Nebraska versus Colorado. First, I'm going to touch on Colorado. What a nice win and comeback for them. They have a lot of talent at receiver. I only knew about Laviska Shenault going into the season, but they had a few guys make big plays for them in that game, kind of step up when he drew the coverage away. I like their coach, Mel Tucker. He coaches very aggressively, and to win, he's not afraid to lose. He'll make the big decisions and live with them. Then on the other side of the coin, Nebraska. This could be a season-breaking loss for them. I don't know where they go from here. I think we're going to really find out what the players in that locker room think of Scott Frost. If they like him, they'll bounce back. If they don't, they could have another really bad season. And honestly, let's say they go 4-8 again, I could see Frost out after 2 years. Now on to week 3, I'm going to give us you guys a couple of predictions like I did for the NFL. The best bet would be USC over BYU. USC's favored by 4 points. I would take USC minus the 4. I feel like Clay Helton's a good coach, even though no one at USC wants him because he's not flashy. they looked really good in that Stanford game. They came back from being down. They played really hard. They scored a lot of points. I think they could represent the Pac-12 this year, which I actually did predict. I didn't think they'd start off this hot, though, so this is fun to see. And then the game of the week, I'm going to go with TCU versus Purdue. A little cross-conference action. Both teams, I think, could make noise in their conference this year. Purdue obviously blew a big lead earlier in the season to Nevada, so I'm curious to see how they bounce back. That game's at 7:30 on the Big Ten Network. I'm going to say Purdue finds a way to win. Obviously, they had the big Ohio State win last year. I just think they might be a program on the verge of kind of leveling up and becoming right up there in the Big Ten and seeing if they can make some noise. That's going to end this episode. Please like, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram. I've just launched those recently and started using them again for this account. It's Short Ginger Show, just like this channel is. Please, any suggestions, anything you guys want to see me make a video on, please just let me know. Thank you for watching. I really appreciate it.